This video is brought to you by Yes Athletics. Women's Advanced Nogi Heavyweight Division. No, I am not a heavyweight, but there wasn't anybody at middleweight, so I jumped up a weight class. We shake hands and immediately start to tie up, and she goes for some kind of armbar / guard pull thing, and I switch it to Ashy, and I get my bite on the heel hook, and she taps. I was talking to her afterwards. She said her knee was fine. She just doesn't really train leg locks that much, which is why she tapped so quickly. So a good first win. On to my second match. We shake hands and we start to tie up immediately. I can already tell that she is being pretty heavy here in her hand fighting and in her collar ties. I start to look for my double underhooks, but I let my head get a little bit too low when I try to duck around to the back, and she starts to snap me down. Here I start to work to break her grips and try to stand back up. I'm fighting to break the grip on her front headlock, and here I'm able to get my left arm back underneath for an underhook and stand back up. We go back to hand fighting, looking for that inside control, fighting for that good hand positioning and head positioning to try to work for a takedown. I am specifically looking to try to get my double underhooks so that I can start to set up some of my body lock trips and throws. Here I get my double unders. She's trying to wrap her arm around my head, but from here I'm able to set up a nice little front trip, and I get my 2 points and land in her guard. We continue to hand fight. From here, I'm looking for bicep control or wrist control. She's looking to try to break down my posture and start to hunt for sweeps and submissions. Once the guard opens up, I choose to stand to try to work for a standing pass, but then I decide to abandon the standing pass and fall back on a leg lock. I was initially looking for a heel hook here because her heel was pretty exposed, but as she sat back, that heel exposure kind of went away, and I was having a hard time getting a good bite on it. As we rolled, I tried to look to get a rebite on the heel, but I just wasn't able to get a good angle on it. And she starts to stand up to defend, and the ref decides to stop us because we had rolled out of bounds, and we reset back in the middle. Once we get back to the center of the mat, the ref resets us back in that same leg lock position, and once he's sure we're ready, he starts us again. I am immediately looking to find that heel exposure again, and she starts to try to attack my free leg on a toe hold. There's not a ton of braking pressure here though, but I'm still not able to get to the heel, so I decide to switch to a toe hold of my own. We roll to this kind of funky position, and I start to switch it to a knee bar, but her knee line is starting to slip out. So I start to attack for my heel hook again, but her foot gets caught in my rash guard, and the ref has to fix it. I continue to fight for that heel hook, and she rolls to defend. I roll with her to try to stay on it, but I'm still struggling to get that heel exposure, and at this point my positioning is not as good as I would like it to be. So I decide to try to switch from the DOA position to more of a saddle position, but I can tell that the leg lock position is just not working for me, so I abandon, stand up, and I'm able to get on top in half guard. I already have my right side underhook, and so I'm looking to keep her flat, but we kind of rolled off to the edge of the mat, so the ref decides to reset us back in the middle so we don't continue to roll off the mat. He resets us back in half guard in the exact same position. I have my underhook, and we go. Here she tries to go for some kind of like Nogi Ezekiel choke. I think this works a little bit better in the gi, but I was able to just pass to full mount, and I get my points for the pass as well as for mount. But she immediately starts to bridge me over, and I wind up in the guard and starting to attack for that arm bar. I'm looking to pull her arm across the body and start to cut my angle and throw the leg over the head, but she's pressuring pretty heavy here, and it's making it pretty difficult to wrap that up. So I start to try to either come around the back or set up my pendulum sweep here. But again, she's doing a good job of pressuring in pretty heavy, so it's making it difficult for me to either come around the back or set up that pendulum sweep. We continue to hand fight here. I am looking for my sweeps and submissions. She is looking to try to keep my hips flat to the mat and start to posture up and pass the guard. Here she starts to posture up, and as I can see that she's starting to posture up, I immediately come up and I hit my hip bump sweep going over to mount. This is a great move because it is a 6-point move as long as you're able to hold mount, because you get 2 for the sweep as well as 4 for the mount position. As she is fighting to try to bridge me over, I'm able to adjust my hips and adjust to the backpack position and score another 4 points. I'm a little bit high, so I'm trying to adjust my hips back so that she doesn't shuck me off the top and so that I can start to attack for my rear naked choke. At this point, I know there's not a ton of time left on the clock, so I'm just looking to maintain this position and try to dig for that rear naked choke without letting her buck me off. She's doing a really good job of staying really tight here in this position and in tucking her chin. You can see I'm kind of trying to use my hooks to flatten her out, and she's not letting me flatten her. And I'm also trying really hard to get underneath her chin. I'm kind of around her jaw right now, just trying to jaw crush to get her to lift her chin, and she was not having it. Here you can see me trying to dig for that choke again, and she's just doing a really good job of staying really tight. At this point, I knew there was very, very little time on the clock, and she was being super tough, so unless I was going to be able to get under that chin, I probably wasn't going to be able to get a submission, but I decided to just go around her jaw anyway, because anything below the eyebrows is the neck, and I just cranked on her jaw till the end of the time to see if I could try to get a tap, but I was leading on points, so I wound up winning 19-0. She was a really tough opponent. She just did not want to tap to anything. It was a really fun match, and yeah, slow zoom on the scoreboard from my dad. Thank you, Dad. Overall, a really good day. I had a lot of fun in my matches. I felt like I got to workshop some things that I had been working on. Yes, I tripped on the medal stand. Don't worry, I did make it to the #1 spot. And if you like my super cool wrestling shoes that I'm wearing on the podium, be sure to check out the sponsor of this video, Yes Athletics. Yes Athletics makes the best women's wrestling shoes in the game, and they just came out with the super cool Defiant 2 line, so be sure to check them out and use code Cyanide at checkout for 10% off.